Okay. All right. So give me a demonstration for doing the thumbnail landscape design. So, okay, real simple though. Just like we've done thumbnails before. We're just gonna draw rectangles. So, now in terms of the landscape drawings, I'm fine if you want to do either vertical or horizontal. So, I'll probably just do like a mix of the two. But we're just gonna draw some rectangles here. So, and if you want to, you can also do a little bit bigger than your thumb. Just because we can kind of put a little bit more detail in these these designs or drawings that we're going to do today. So, I'm just doing a little bit bigger than my thumb here. So, I'll just do 3 of them vertical. So, kind of want to do like a vertical design for the landscape just to do something different though. But typically the landscapes are usually horizontal though. But I want you guys to try to come up with 3 different or 5 different designs so we can use for like your final drawing. So I'm gonna do this vertically, and then this one, these 2 I'm gonna do horizontally. Okay, it's up to you which one you want to do, but you could try vertical if you want, or if you're comfortable with horizontal, that's okay too. Okay, so you're just gonna draw these 5 rectangles. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys this Google Slides to look at. So this is just more information about the monochromatic landscape painting that we're going to be doing. So I just kind of go over this briefly, but we're going to focus on a monochromatic scheme. So we're going to focus on like areas that are going to be like dark, and then we're going to have some grays and then white areas. So it's going to be important to do like, a little bit of shading for your thumbnail sketches. Some examples of some monochromatic scheme paintings. These are some drawing tips for creating a landscape. So I'll go over these things though, but it's important to start for a horizon line, create a foreground, middle ground, background, and then create atmospheric perspective. So some areas are going to be darker in your work, and then other parts are going to be light. So go over that in the drawing, and then it's just a lot of resources for you guys to look at. Okay, so you'll have that to look at. Now, with your thumbnail sketches, though, I do recommend doing a Google search on just landscapes in general. So, just have some landscapes to look at. Let me make this window a little bit smaller, so try to fit this in here. So I would just do like a Google image search, just so you have some different kinds of, landscapes to look at to draw from. Okay, now in terms of the landscapes that you guys will draw, though, I'm gonna let you guys kind of choose like whatever landscapes you want to do. If you want to do like trees, rivers, mountains, if you want to do like even like a house, that's fine too. The most important thing though is we're gonna have to do we'll call it like a 4-part landscape. So at least you want to make sure you have like a foreground, middle ground, background, and then there should be some type of a line that separates the ground from the sky. Now, some of these, landscapes, though, they don't really have like a set horizon line, though, but there is a separation, though, from the ground from the sky. And within the drawing, too, and there's only like a couple examples, though, we're going to try to create a little bit of atmospheric perspective, though, with the painting itself. So I do want you guys to do a little bit of like, areas where you're keeping like a dark and shading in the artwork. Okay, so just keeping those things in mind though, we're just gonna design some ideas for sketches that we can do. So and again, let's just say like I just want to do maybe like mountains and maybe like some trees with it. So you can keep your landscapes pretty simple though if you want. So I'm just gonna use that as like a reference point, but maybe for like this first drawing though, I can just do some smaller mountains here, do a bigger one over here maybe. Maybe I might have some I don't know, like trees over here. So, and then the thing with the drawings too is you want to multi-layer it. So this is like my foreground here. This will be my middle ground. This will be like my background. So Not drawing the same exact thing though, but you know, this could be like one of my ideas though for like one of my drawings. You know, you can keep it real simple, or if you want, you can go more complex with it. So I'm just drawing one in the foreground, middle ground, and then this one's gonna be like in the far background here, and then maybe just like some clouds in the sky or something. So once you get your drawing done though, and I'll kind of zoom in a little bit closer on. Well, actually, I don't really zoom it in, but you know, you also want to make sure to shade the drawing too. So usually in terms of atmospheric perspective though, things that are closer to the drawing will appear much darker. Okay, so I'm just going to shade this darker here. And then as it gets further away in the background though, this would be like still a darker gray though. And I might outline this a little bit darker though, just so it pops out more. All right, and then this one's like the lightest gray as possible. So you want to at least do like at least 3 different values. You know, you have like your whites, a dark gray, and then you know, like your darks here. So that could be like one of my designs I'm gonna do here. So that's probably like the easiest one you could do. But you know, you can do anything that you want. So let me see the one. Well, let me find one that's a little bit more interesting to do. So let me see. Maybe we do something like this one here. This one's kind of really neat. So you got some rocks here, and then this is like the middle here, and then that's the background. So when you have something that's a little bit more complex though, you know, you have to really think carefully about like what areas you want to be like a dark, and then what areas you want to keep light. Because obviously, this is all like in light though, so we have to think about like what forms we can keep us like kind of like a silhouette form. So, you know, like I'm thinking about like these rocks maybe that could be part of my like silhouette. So, you know, I actually really like this design. So let me just kind of sketch this out first. That like, you know, something of like I might want to do. So you guys can't see what I'm sketching out though, but and I'll flip it back to the other one. But so I kind of like, you know, where this river's going. It's kind of neat. And then there is evidence of like a horizon line here too. So I'm just gonna draw that horizon line as well. Do some rocks here. I really like how this mountain curves up this way here. And kind of creates like a little, kind of like a frame for like this other mountain that's over here in the background. Okay, so let me flip back to here. So this is like kind of what I just drew here, sketched out. So these rocks though, I'm gonna use them as like my silhouette forms. So I'm actually have this go off the page here. So you really just think about values, shapes, and forms though. So I wouldn't really worry about details though. You know, you just kind of get an idea of like how you want, you know, the drawings to look overall. So this part would be like a little bit more of a darker gray. Usually water is a little bit more darker in value. So let me go back to that picture. Yeah, see like the water is darker than this part here. So, you know, I can do this value a little bit more of like a darker gray. It's kind of hard to see this because of the glare, but let me lower it a little bit more. You know, you're just kind of roughing the idea of like how you want your drawing to look. I'm going a little bit more darker with these rocks here so they pop out more. And if it helps out, you can always take a look at, you know, silhouette artwork. But, you know, I would definitely try to, you know, think of something original. I don't want you to really copy someone else's artwork, though, if possible. But so this one's a little bit more of like a darker gray here. And again, we're just kind of experimenting with some ideas of how things would look. So, you know, we don't like it, though. We can always, you know, go with like another idea. Usually these types of drawings, though, I feel like the simpler the design is, the, you know, better it looks. But I mean, you could do some pretty complex things though with, you know, the landscape drawing. So this could be another idea. Not really feeling the rocks now, but okay. But you know, I do want you to, you know, do think about your values though, because you know, it will help to dictate the drawing will work or not. You know, sometimes it may not work. So, and you know, it might just help out just to look up you know, silhouette works as well. So, you know, if I just Google search maybe silhouette landscapes, so basically you're doing like little silhouettes as well. You know, it might give you a better idea to just look at some examples of like silhouette work. Like you see, like it's like more darker on the edges. It gets lighter in the middle. So, you know, this is the, you know, kind of thing that, you know, I kind of expect us to do paintings on. So it might help out to, you know, maybe look at some of these examples and then draw from it. So, you know, tree shows up really nicely too. So, you know, maybe you might want to do some trees here. On the edges. Add like maybe like a horizon line here. You can do smaller trees. Let me see. Try and base it off of this idea here. So, you know, you can have some this grass here. This would be like a little bit more of like a darker gray. So I'm not really copying the idea, but I'm just looking at how they establish the values. Like this is like a really darker gray. This is like a lighter gray here. The trees are like pretty much like a black. So this part's a lighter gray. And then we have like the mounds that are, you know, further back. And that's even a lighter value. Okay, but it's just, you know, sketching out, drawing some ideas on landscapes you might want to do. So you know actually how that one turned out better. So, okay, but definitely you can also look up silhouette landscapes as well. That might give you like some better ideas on things to draw than actual landscapes. You know, I feel like if you look up landscapes itself, it's like you have to understand how, you know, the atmospheric or values work. So, just something to keep in mind of though as you're think about ideas.